The 1960s, Hollywood's golden age, timeless movies, red carpet icons, and legends who defined an era. But behind the fame and glamour, some of Hollywood's biggest stars held controversial beliefs and made decisions that shaped casting, representation, and the industry itself. These are 15 Hollywood celebrities from the 1960s whose hidden stories might just change the way you see them. And trust me, number 1, it influenced Hollywood for decades. 15. John Wayne. John Wayne, the face of classic westerns, built his career on an image of rugged patriotism. But in a 1971 interview with Playboy, Wayne made statements about civil rights and education that shocked audiences when revisited decades later. Supporters argue he reflected the views of his generation, but critics believe his comments reveal a Hollywood that struggled with diversity both on and off the screen. Regardless of intent, his legacy is now viewed through a much more complex lens. 14. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford embodied old Hollywood elegance, but when her private letters and studio memos surfaced years later, they revealed her influence behind the scenes. She reportedly lobbied against housing integration in upscale Los Angeles neighborhoods and pushed for selective casting choices in her projects. Crawford's power in Hollywood extended far beyond the screen, shaping decisions that affected countless careers. 13. Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston publicly supported civil rights, even marching alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963. But archived studio documents and political donation records tell a more complicated story. Heston reportedly opposed integrated portrayals in certain scripts and financially backed candidates who resisted desegregation policies. His story reflects the tension between Hollywood's progressive image and private political choices. 12. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was known for breaking barriers, famously refusing to perform at segregated venues in Las Vegas and insisting that his fellow Rat Pack members, including Sammy Davis Jr., receive equal treatment. But archival hotel records suggest Sinatra occasionally clashed with venue owners and performers as America's entertainment capital grappled with rapidly changing social norms. Sinatra's role highlights just how messy Hollywood's transition into inclusivity truly was. 11. Judy Garland. Beloved for her role as Dorothy, Judy Garland was one of Hollywood's brightest stars. But studio archives and production reports reveal Garland occasionally resisted performing for integrated audiences and had sway over casting decisions in some of her later films. While many see her as a victim of the studio system, her influence also shaped how Hollywood represented diversity at the time. 10. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas redefined Hollywood storytelling and championed creative control, famously breaking the blacklist by hiring Dalton Trumbo for Spartacus. But property records linked to his production company reveal involvement in restrictive housing covenants that excluded minorities from certain Los Angeles neighborhoods during the 1960s. These revelations underscore how systemic discrimination extended well beyond movie sets. 9. Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood's performance in West Side Story is considered iconic, but it also draws criticism today for its casting choices. Studio records indicate Wood occasionally requested specific stand-ins and casting preferences that limited opportunities for certain actors. These behind-the-scenes decisions reflect the broader systemic practices of an industry still grappling with inclusion. 8. Glenn Ford. Known for his rugged charm, Glenn Ford was a staple of 1960s Hollywood, but production notes and crew interviews describe frequent clashes over cultural representation on set. Ford's influence over creative decisions demonstrates just how much control top stars wielded and how those choices shaped representation on screen. 7. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis entertained millions as one of Hollywood's top comedians, But early in his career, he performed blackface routines that were considered acceptable at the time, but are now widely viewed as offensive. While these performances reflected the era's norms, revisiting them today highlights how Hollywood has evolved in its portrayal of race and culture. 6. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is celebrated for challenging Hollywood norms, famously refusing his Oscar in 1973 to protest the industry's treatment of Native Americans. But early studio correspondence shows Brando's views were far more complicated in the 1960s, with inconsistencies between his public activism and private negotiations. Brando's transformation demonstrates how even Hollywood icons evolve with time. 5. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis was one of the decade's biggest stars, but production memos reveal he sometimes resisted integrated casting in his films. While these decisions often aligned with studio policies, critics argue they reflected a broader reluctance to embrace diversity during Hollywood's golden age. 4. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn embodied timeless elegance, but behind-the-scenes casting notes reveal she occasionally supported choices that excluded actors of color from prominent roles. While her decisions weren't uncommon for the time, they highlight the systemic barriers built into mid-century Hollywood. 3. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson captivated audiences worldwide, but archived studio negotiations reveal he declined projects involving integrated casting in the early 1960s. These moments are now revisited as part of Hollywood's long journey toward inclusivity. 2. Doris Day. Doris Day, America's sweetheart, charmed millions on screen, but studio records suggest she sometimes requested casting adjustments to maintain specific creative visions. These practices were common at the time, but serve as reminders of the limitations actors of color faced in the 1960s Hollywood. 1. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, transformed cinema forever. But production documents and interviews reveal Hitchcock often avoided diverse casting in his films, shaping industry standards for years to come. Hitchcock's brilliance is undeniable, but his influence on representation remains one of Hollywood's most debated legacies. Hollywood's golden age gave us unforgettable stories, but it was also shaped by attitudes and decisions we still discuss today. By understanding this history, we can see how far the industry has come and how far it still has to go. Subscribe to Vintage Primetime for more untold stories, rare archives, and hidden Hollywood secrets.